Welcome. This is Recidiva. I'm sharing a recording of a casual Skyrim playthrough using a mod list I built. My profound thanks to all the mod creators who have made this game a crowdsourced treasure. I hope you enjoy. Okay, we're gonna start continue Tools of the Trade. I'm just gonna pick the places that seem closest. This is gonna take a while. There are lots of relics on this list. I think we counted 20 plus. And some of them are unlabeled, some of them are in Solstheim. So Oh, I found this, but I did not absorb it. Usually in my game, I'll alternate. I'll go get one of these and then go do something else. So in my usual game, I do a miscellaneous quest, and then a regular quest, then a miscellaneous quest, and then a regular quest. Kitty is back. Hello, sweetheart. Yeah, you're welcome. You can stay.
Your lips look cold. Should I warm them up a bit? Are you sure that I'm always at your service, day or night?
About surviving out here.
Yes, my love.
I'm exhausted.
Maybe we should rest for the night.
Would you set up a campsite?
I'll pitch a tent for you anytime, sweetheart.
I don't know why his face light isn't working. Alright. Can you set up a large tent?
Anything for you.
You are a sweetheart. Yeah, his face light isn't working. Don't know what to do about that. Oh my god, I can't even see. Alright, so not so much with the tent. Oh, this is the Stendar. Alright.
That smile.
I'm gonna ask him
Hello
to pack
again.
up the tent that I can't see.
Sure
And I'll just
thing.
use rain shelter. Just imagine he's using it with me because he misplaced his tiny tent. It's only temporary. Okay, I just made a few weird things, and I'm processing them. In the real world, I just made freeze-dried pickle chips, which are... they're good, they're just weird. It's like... yeah, they're like vinegar wafers. Melt-away vinegar wafers. I made freeze-dried cinnamon rolls, just thin slices of them freeze-dried. They're amazing. And I made freeze-dried guacamole, which just is like styrofoam that you break up into pieces, and you can rehydrate into guacamole, or you can just powder it and put on things. It's kind of amazing. So I'm processing all the awesome and weird stuff I'm making. Battle of Red Mountain. Rise and fall of the Tribunal. Following is a transcript of the words of Lord Vivek addressed to the dissident priest, Malor Omain, who confronted Vivek with the Ashlander tradition surrounding the Battle of Red Mountain, and with prophecies of the Nerevarine, and to unnamed magistrates of the Inquisition who joined Vivek in interrogating the dissident priest. Who can clearly recall the events of the distant past? But you have asked me to tell you, in my own words, the events surrounding the Battle of Red Mountain, the birth of the Tribunal, and the prophecies of a Nerevar reborn. Here is what I can tell you. When the Kaimer first abandoned the herds and tents of the nomadic ancestors and built their first great houses, we loved the Daedra and worshipped them as gods. But our brethren, the Dwemer, scorned the Daedra and mocked our foolish rituals and preferred instead the gods of reason and logic, which no longer survive, clearly. So the Kaimer and Dwemer were always at bitter war, until the Nords came and invaded Resdain. Only then did the Kaimer and Dwemer put away their strife and join together to cast out the invaders. Once the Nords were driven out, General Nerevar of the Kaimer and General Dumak of the Dwemer, who had come to love and respect one another, resolved to make peace between their peoples. In that time I was but a junior counselor to Nerevar, and Nerevar's queen, Almalexia, and his other favorite counselor, Sothosil, always doubted that such a peace might long survive, given the bitter disputes between Kaimer and Dwemer. But by negotiation and compromise, Nerevar and Dumak somehow managed to preserve a fragile peace. But when Dagoth Lord of House Dagoth, and trusted as a friend by both Nerevar and the Dwemer, brought us proof that High Engineer Kagrenak of the Dwemer had discovered the heart of Lorkhan, and that he had learned how to tap its powers and was building a new god, a mockery of Kaimer faith and a fearsome weapon, we all urged Nerevar to make war on the dwarves and to destroy this threat to Kaimer beliefs and security. Nerevar was troubled. He went to Dumak and asked if what Dagoth said was true. But Kagrenak took great offense and asked whom Nerevar thought he was, that he might presume to judge the affairs of the Dwemer. Nerevar was further troubled and made pilgrimage to Holmayan, the sacred temple of Azura, and Azura confirmed that all that Dagoth said was indeed true, and that the creation of a new god of the Dwemer should be prevented at all costs. When Nerevar came back and told us what the goddess had said, we felt our judgments confirmed and again counseled him to war, chiding Nerevar for his naive trust and friendship, and reminding Nerevar of his duty to protect the faith and security of the Kaimer against the impiety and dangerous ambitions of the Dwemer. Then Nerevar went back to Vardenfell one last time, hoping that negotiations and compromise might once again preserve the peace. But this time the friends Nerevar and Dumak quarreled bitterly, and as a result, Kaimer and Dwemer went to war. The Dwemer were well defended by their fortress at Red Mountain, but Nerevar's cunning drew most of Dumak's armies out into the field and pinned them there, while Nerevar, Dagoth and a small group of companions could make their way into the Heart Chamber by secret means. There, Nerevar the Kaimer king met Dumak the Dwarf king, and they both collapsed from grievous wounds and draining magics. With Dumak fallen and threatened by Dagoth and others, Kagrenak turned his tools upon the heart, and Nerevar said he saw Kagrenak and all his Dwemer companions at once disappear from the world. Oh shit. Oh, okay. Yeah, and everybody keeps saying it's a mystery, but there's... here's an account. And Nerevar said he saw Kagrenak and all of his Dwemer companions at once disappear from the world. In that instant, Dwemer everywhere disappeared without a trace. But Kagrenak's tools remained, and Dagoth seized them, and he carried them to Nerevar, saying, "That fool Kagrenak has destroyed his own people with these things. We should destroy them right away, lest they fall into the wrong hands." I think your hands are the wrong hands. But Nerevar was resolved to confer with his queen and his generals, who had foreseen that this war would come and whose counsel he would not ignore again. "I will ask the tribunal what we shall do with them, for they have had wisdom in the past that I had not. Stay here, loyal Dagoth until I return." So Nerevar told Dagoth to protect the tools and the Heart Chamber until he returned. Then Nerevar was carried to us where we waited on the slopes of Red Mountain, and he told us all that what had transpired under Red Mountain. What Nerevar had said was that the Dwemer had used special tools to turn their people into immortals, and that the heart of Lorkhan held wondrous powers. Only later did we hear from others present that Dagoth had thought the Dwemer destroyed, not made immortal, and no one knows for sure what really happened there. After hearing Nerevar, we gave our counsel as he requested, proposing we should preserve these tools and trust for the welfare of the Kaimer people. And who knows? Perhaps the Dwemer are not gone forever, but merely transported to some distant realm from which they may someday return to threaten our security once again. Therefore, we need to keep these tools, to study them and their principles, so that they may be safe for future generations. And though Nerevar voiced his grave misgivings. He was willing to be ruled by our council under one condition, that we all together should swear a solemn oath upon Azura that the tools would never be used in the profane manner that the Dwemer had intended. We all readily agreed, and swore solemn oaths at Nerevar's dictation. So then we went with Nerevar back into Red Mountain and met with Dagoth-Ur. Dagoth-Ur refused to deliver the tools to us, saying they were dangerous and we could not touch them. Dagoth-Ur seemed to be irrational, insisting that only he could be trusted with the tools, and then we guessed that he had somehow been affected by his handling of the tools. But now I feel sure that he had privately learned the powers of the tools and had, in some confused way, decided he must have them for himself. Then Nerevar and our guard resorted to force to secure the tools. Somehow Dagoth-Ur and his retainers escaped, but we retained the tools and delivered them to Sothasil for study and safekeeping. For some years we kept the oath we swore to Azura with Nerevar, but during that time, in secret, Sothasil must have studied the tools and divined their mysteries, and at last he came to us with a vision of a new world of peace, justice and honor for nobles, and health and prosperity for commoners, with the tribunal as immortal patrons and guides. And dedicating ourselves to this vision of a better world, we made a pilgrimage to Red Mountain and transformed ourselves with the power of Kagrenak's tools. And no sooner than we had completed our rituals and begun to discover our newfound powers, the Daedra Lord Azura appeared and cursed us for our forsworn oaths. By her powers of prophecy, she assured us that her champion, Nerevar, true to his oath, would return to punish us for our perfidy, and to make sure such profane knowledge might never again be used to mock and defy the will of the gods. But Sothasil said to her, "The old gods are cruel and arbitrary and distant from the hopes and fears of Mer. Your age is past. We are the new gods, born of the flesh and wise and caring of the needs of our people. Spare us your threats and chiding, inconstant spirit. We are bold and fresh and will not fear you." And then, in that moment, all Kaimer were changed into Dunmer, and our skins turned ashen and our eyes into fire. Of course, we only knew at that time that this had happened to us, but Azura said, "This is not my act, but your act. You have chosen your fate, and the fate of your people, and all the Dunmer shall share your fate. From now on to the end of time, you think yourselves gods, but you are blind, and all is darkness." And Azura left us alone in darkness, and we were all afraid. But we put on brave faces and went forth from Red Mountain to build the new world of our dreams. And the new world we shaped was glorious and generous, and the worship of the Dunmer fervent and grateful. The Dunmer were at first afraid of their new faces, but Sothasil spoke to them, saying it was not a curse but a blessing, a sign of their changed natures, and a sign of a special favor they might enjoy as new Mer, no longer barbarians trembling before ghosts and spirits, but civilized Mer, speaking directly to their immortal friends and patrons, the three faces of the tribunal. And we were all inspired by Sothasil's speech and vision, and took heart. And over time we crafted the customs and institutions of a just and honorable society, and the land of Resdain new millennia of peace, equity, and prosperity unknown to other savage races. But beneath Red Mountain, Dagoth-Ur had survived, and even as the light of our bold new world shone even more brightly, beneath Red Mountain the darkness gathered, a darkness that was close kin to the bright lights that Sothasil coaxed from the heart of Lorkhan with the tools of Kagrenak. As the darkness grew, we fought it and crafted walls to confine it, but we never could destroy it, for the source of the darkness was the same source as the source of our own divine inspiration. And in these latter days of Morrowind, reduced to a subjugated province of the Western Empire, as the glory of the temple fades and the dark tide rises from Red Mountain, we are reminded of Azura and her promised champion's return. We have waited, blind and in darkness, mere shadows, drained of our ardent vision in shame of our folly and fear of our judgment, and in hope of our deliverance. We do not know if the outlander claiming to fulfill the prophecies of the Nerevarine is our old companion Nerevar Reborn, or a pawn of the Emperor, or a cat's paw of Azura, or some simple twist of fate. But we insist you adhere to temple doctrine and conform to the strictures dividing the hieroglypha from the apocrypha, and that you not speak that which must not be spoken openly. Act as a dutiful priest should, in accordance with your vows of obedience to the canons and archcanons, and all will be forgiven. Defy me, and you will know what it is to stand against a god. Vivek. Last King of the Aliens by Herminia Sinner. The Aliens, or Heartland Hyla elves, ruled Cyrodiil in the long ages of myth before the beginning of recorded history. One of the earliest recorded dates, in fact, is the fall of the White Gold Tower in IE 243, which is commonly assumed to mark the end of the Aliens. Although Aliad rule over all of Cyrodiil was indeed broken in IE 243, this was only one of the most obvious stages near the end of a long decline. The first 2 centuries of the First Era saw increasing strife between the great Aliad lords of Cyrodiil. Alessia appears to have taken advantage of a period of civil war to launch her uprising. Imperial historians have traditionally attributed her victory to intervention from Skyrim, but it appears that she had at least as much help from rebel Aliad lords during the siege of White Gold Tower. The popular image of the Aliads as brutal slave masters is based in fact, of course, but it is less well known that a number of Aliad princes continued to rule parts of Cyrodiil after 243, as vassals of the new Empress of Cyrodiil. This suggests either that Aliad rule was not universally detested, or that Alessia and her successors were more pragmatic than is traditionally believed, or perhaps some of both. In any event, excavation at a number of Aliad sites shows continuing occupation and even expansion during the so-called late Aliad period, i.e. 243 to 498. At first, many Aliad lords continued to rule as vassals of the new human regime. In some cases, Aliad supporters of Alessia were even rewarded with new lands taken from slain enemies. It is not clear to what extent human slavery continued under the Cyrodiilic Empire. Humans continued to dwell in the Aliad-ruled areas of Cyrodiil, and there is nothing definitive to show under what terms. This was an uneasy relationship from the beginning, and was not destined to last long. Resentment of the continued presence of Aliad nobles within the Empire was a contributing factor to the rise of the so-called Alessian Order, founded by Maruch. The first victims of the Alessians were the Aliads of Cyrodiil. In the early 300s, the surviving Aliad communities were human-ruled areas. Human-ruled areas were obliterated one by one, refugees temporarily swelling the power of the remaining Aliad lordships. Then in 361, the Alessians gained control of the empire and enforced the Alessian doctrines throughout the domain. The Aliad lordships were abolished. Enforcement of this decree does not appear to have required much direct violence. It seems that by this point the balance of power was so overwhelmingly against them, and their fate so long foreshadowed, that most of the remaining Aliads simply left Cyrodiil, eventually being absorbed into the elven populations of Valenwood and High Rock. Indeed, the rise of the Durrani hegemony may be linked to this exodus of Aliads from Cyrodiil, a connection so far little studied by historians. Still, a remnant Aliad population seems to have survived the rule of the Alessians, because we hear of the last king of the Aliads joining the Battle of Glenumbria, Moors, where the Durranis decisively defeated the Alessians in 482. How this king's people survived the preceding century is unknown. We do not even know who they were, although recent research points to Ninalata as the possible resting place of this last king. Unfortunately, in my current state of the Empire, funds are no longer available for proper scientific investigation of such extensive ruins, so the answer to these questions will have to be left to future generations. You okay there, Kaidan? You alright? Okay. I know where most of the tools are. Some of them are tough to get to. There is one in particular involving a ledge that I am possibly going to clip my way out of, because I am not a platformer, folks. I know,
We
it's a
should
shock.
look the game while we're out here. Pity you can't cast that muffled spell on me, eh? Maybe then I could sneak for shite.
You do sneak for shit, honey.
Damn kissable.
That's weird. Okay. I am standing right on a spot. Find Delrune's compass. I don't know what the deal is. The marker's off. Yeah, Alright, so instead let's go to Marion's spyglass. It's underwater. Oh my god, what enemies are nearby?
I'll kill you all myself. Good
It's a
riddance.
spider. Right? Get it? Do we get it? Are we done? Alright, well look, now the marker's north. Okay, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, never mind. I get it. I ran away. Okay. In true survival, getting this quest will actually kill you. It doesn't matter if you can breathe water. It's underwater far north. It will, in fact, just kill you. Or I suppose you could stay alive if you have approximately 2 million potions. But there's cold in the air, and then there's cold underwater, and they have different magnitudes.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of the autumn breeze in your face, or the scent of the salty sea air.
Okay. So Marion's spyglass is down here in this ship. And yeah, you either have to pop 1 million water-breathing potions and 1 million, I don't know, I don't even know what it is you could do to survive this. I mean, the cold is insane. Miriam's spyglass. Poor Miriam has died Marion has died horribly. Just like everyone else. Bookshelf landed on them and trapped them. It's weird, you know, it says greater research notes. I can take them, and I think it says it gives me research points. I think you're supposed to be able, and I haven't done this much in the guild. There is a spot in the library where you can go and do research to find out, you know, where new relics are. But as long as, oh wow, floating wood. Huh, that's wild. Yeah, I am freezing. So even, yeah, it's rough, folks. Okay, there's another one over here. Stillborn Cave. But yeah, there are a couple of things, and they're all mods. So Legacy of the Dragonborn really doesn't have any respect for survival mode at all. It doesn't accommodate it in the least. You can patch for it, but it doesn't have any accommodations for, okay, we'll make this guild this quest so it won't kill you. Fishing is another mod, and if you try to do some of the fishing quests off Dawnstar, you have to swim around and catch stuff in the cold water. It will also kill you.
Traveling.
So when I play some of these things that have long lists, I will just do one at a time. So, one of the other, I think it's Creation Club, which is another quest that I have. See if I can get the name of it. It's like Guardian of the something. But it also sends you on a... Get it from a book, which is something that I get early in the game because I think you can get a copy of it pretty earlier. But it sends you after like 8 different relics also. It's in here. I don't see it. Okay. Look them up. I was pretty sure we had it activated. But it requires, that one also requires that you get several relics. So what I will do in general will be like, okay, I'll do one miscellaneous quest, and then I'll do one Legacy of the Dragonborn relic, and then I'll do one, Guardians of the whatever it is, then I'll do a Step of the Min quest, and then repeat. Just so I don't experience quest fatigue.
Your lips look cold. Should I warm them up a bit?
That is so weird. I haven't changed my gear at all, and now I can... Ugh, I do not understand. I must be getting mana debuffs from somewhere. Eating or drinking something that cuts down on my, I don't know. Probably a very simple answer that if I knew it, I would decide that I hadn't thought of it.
Your eyes open.
I love these ice caves. They do look a little weird when they are melted for spring. So some of these places that have legacy relics in them, I may need to run them twice, which is why I don't rush to get them done, because a lot of these, they also have attendant quests that go with them. If I don't have the quest and I'm just running through to get the relic, then I'll have to do it twice anyway. Some of these might already be cleared. But so the arrow is really only going to send me to pick up the relic. And then I'll be done. And any quest that's intended to, like, clear this place. Curious Dwemer electro torch that seems to never exhaust itself also causes minor shock damage when bashing. So it's a torch you can carry. So these packs tend to contain things like research. Yeah, greater research notes. So I probably have several of these, but I think I only get credit for reading them once. We'll see. Ah, 5 research points gained. Oh, they disappear like spells after reading them. Okay, I just learned something. Gotcha. I'll probably put some of these in my vault. I can go grab them. I don't really use research points, but who knows, maybe I'll need them later.
Trust my dragon, with all I am, and yet my heart fucking stops when something comes at us. Every... Oh, what the fuck is it now? Damn. Die! I win.
Alright, this is one of the times I'm going to use a teleport because I'm going to go to Roland's Manor. There are a couple out near that side of the world. Let's see if I have any unread Synamia's journals. Nope. Okay. Okay, Fort Dawnguard has one in Dayspring Canyon, I believe, which has a weird series of puzzles, but I can usually do them. Okay. No, there's probably some sort of Dawnguard content that will eventually send me into the caverns. I don't know what it is then. So yeah, these can be difficult, at least for me, because there are, there are a million arrows. Literally a million. No. It just feels like it. Yeah, Kaidan can't really follow me through here. It's a pain in the ass. Okay, so what you're doing here, activate the tripwire, is activating archery targets. So this is another place where the archery targets won't work if you're using arcane arrows. Alright, so there's half of a bridge. You want to get the other half of the bridge. So what you do is lift this up. I believe this is correct anyway. Hit this arrow, then let it down. That puts... Nope, I was wrong. I'll eventually get it. But yeah, arcane arrows don't work on this. It's very frustrating to get out all this way, and then... Okay, hit this. And now you see that that gate is open, and this is up. Alright, this is weird, and I don't like it. But here you go. While you're inside, hit this again. This will fall. This will open. While you're in here, they've got a bit of a flue. There's a pressure plate with something on it. So I'm going to turn off my auto loot and drop some shit. Because if you have your auto loot on, then as soon as you drop something, you pick it right back up again, which is not all that productive. Okay, I'm going to drop the barbarian helmet. And barbarian gauntlets. No, I'm not wearing them on. Yeah, I should use a different key. Take that off, silly. Okay, drop that. Drop that. Okay, good. One of them landed right on the plate anyway. I'm gonna pretend I didn't do that and put the clothes back on like I didn't take them off. Okay, so the boots are there. Take the armor. If you don't know, you use the E key to activate something and lift it. Bring it over. Drop it on that. Once all three of them are down, do that. It'll open. I'm just going to leave those there. There's no real point in me picking them back up because the door will just drop. Yeah, I'm just going to leave them. Here's another one up there. Okay. Tsunami Journal, Volume 3. 7th of Sun Dawn. Fort Frostmoth was once the jewel of the Empire in Solstheim, a rich center for the East Empire Trading Company. But after the Red Year disaster, the fort was all but destroyed, leaving behind much death and ruin. The chaos of everyone's departure from Morrowind and part of Solstheim would ensure that much was left behind. I expect that some storeroom or another must have been buried and left filled with riches. When I reach Solstheim, I should try and see what is left there. Okay. So those give quests. They're not just relics, they are, yeah. So that's a journal for Fort Frostmoth. Go back out there and check it out. Okay. So it's just a puzzle cavern, there are no enemies. I really don't know or remember which actual quest leads you in here for its own sake. Wow, Kaidan's with me. Holy crap. That's unusual. Activate lever. Yeah, it's the big giant lever. Okay. Okay. Yee! I don't like lagging over the edge. Or... Yikes. Yeah, I should be able to go out this way, right? Yeah, that's where we came in. Cool. Alright, I'm glad I didn't go the wrong way and get lost like I usually do. Alright, I think there is another one in Dayspring. Or something close to it. There are two out here in the Dawn Guard area. So I didn't look it up, but I would assume all the names of these people, Sergesto, Kriana, they're all contributors to the mod, I would assume. So they're all named after mod makers.
Today is a gorgeous day.
I worry it'll never be safe to go home.
Alright, it's okay. We'll just go after other ones. Delvin's Compass was the one that was wonky. And that's a new one, by the way. So Sinemi's journal up here, volume 4, is like in the middle of a dragon spawning spot. There's like a dragon and a dragon priest, and also not someplace you should be going early in the game. Yeah, see, and the marker has changed too. These are buggy.
You look at home in these forests.
I'm going to try to actually find the road because it's very difficult to navigate without it. I think we've been too far west. Yeah. Oh, wow, sudden dragon.
We should have seen this coming.
Guar! Zapro!
Shit! You have a death wish?
And sounds like a bear.
Ow! You're dead! I am pretty awesome. There it is again, that fucking smile. I'll never get enough
Alright,
of
I'm
it.
gonna follow the road. Alright. This might be the road, so we're gonna hope. I don't think this is the road. No, it's just this. And look for any opportunity for it to go up in the mountains. not it.
What now? Let it be a lesson to others.
Oh my god, yes.
I'm glad to
Okay.
be wandering the wilds with you.
Okay, I think this is it. She said as she couldn't go any further. How the fuck did I end up here? Oi. I'm just not good at this, people. No, that's the opposite of where you should be going. We already tried this,
Freezing
right?
my ears off.
I'm gonna see if Anbar can do it. Anbar's awesome. Yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to get there without mods and as a human or a Bosmer, but not great. Although I have an amazing cloak. There was supposed to be a road right there. Let's see if I can loop around and find it. Okay. This looks like a road. I'm gonna take it. Okay. Feeling better. I'm on a genuine switchback.
I can see you shiver from here, love. Stay close. I'll keep you warm.
Yeah, it's cold. But I have magic cloak and muffled feet while I'm on a horse. Okay, so that's how you do it. I'll try to remember that for next time. I usually just clip over mountains. Okay, so Nemia's journal is down in this barrow. And there's like a Draugr down here, I mean, because there's always Draugr.
Freeze me. My blade is thirsting for blood.
Oh, sorry, Kaidan. It's very dark. Dead? Okay. You got it? You got it.
Fucking bastarding thing won't stay dead. What kind of fuckery is this?
You got it. Read Nemia's Journal, Volume 4. 22nd of mid-year. Such a lovely day. I decided to take in a bit of fishing on Lake Inanalta before the next stage of the dig site near the ruined fort. I was coasting along in my rowboat when suddenly the edge got high, centered on a rock. After dislodging the boat, I realized the rock was in fact a well-carved ancient Nordic stone and was arranged with many others in a ring. I stuck my head under the water and was able to spy a sunken northern burial ruin. I didn't see a door that was apparent, but would very much like at some point to come back and see what may be there. Okay. Yeah, Gelidy's astrolabe. I have no idea where it is, but let's go check it out. It looks like it's outdoors. Alright. While we're in here, why don't we just go kill the dragon, huh? We might as well. Oh. Yeah, there's a bunch of these guys.
There's just no bloody end. Can't decide if I get shit scared when you're in a fight, or I find it a bit thrilling to watch. Know what I mean? Bit of both, I guess.
Okay, there's a dragon here, and it just becomes a pain in the ass because there's no real good place for it to land. So, we might as well do it now. Got Arcwind Point, which we'll be back to for a quest. Yeah, up here, it's a cool quest too. I think that's Creation Club, but it's a remake of an Alien Ruin. Close, somewhere around here. I probably already have the quest and picked it up. Yeah, this is such a pain in the ass. You're one of them derpy dragons.
Die, dragon!
Overlord.
Give up!
Yeah, I remember trying to do this on legendary difficulty with both of these guys. Just like, are you kidding me?
16 to right.
I believe there's a word wall up here. Yeah. No? Yeah? No. Huh. Alright. Fine. Oh.
Ha! Here we go.
There's an overlord.
I'm ending this right now! You asked for it.
I could have sworn there was a wall. No? In a different place? Down here? No? No. Could have sworn, would have lost the bet. Oh! No, there it is. Could have sworn, could have not sworn, would have lost that bet.
It's bloody cold.
So yeah, there's stuff going on up there in that peak, but we'll be back. At least we have the place discovered now. And there's stuff going on down there in that cave. Just want to make sure. Yeah, okay, we have Arcwind Point learned, so if we have to come back.
How are you, sweetheart? You alright? Aye, we ought to make camp. Alright then. Fucking hell.
He's the best. You know that's a well-delivered line when it makes you giggle every time you hear it.
Love, sleeping out under the stars. But it's nice to be out of the wind tonight.
Okay, don't spin the camera, don't spin the camera, don't spin the camera.
Sure.
Don't use a shout either, honey. Oi. We are just struggling. Okay, so there's King, Thief. I'm going to see if I have any of those books and we'll read them in order. I know I have Thief. Give it to Kaidan.
My favourite part of our tent is anywhere that
I have to spin the camera, but you don't want to. Should go back into first person for that. Yikes. Oh, but I can't. It's a forced animation. Haha, I'm screwed every way. Every way I try. No? Alright, so the Book King gives me the other books in order. Beggar. So we'll start with Beggar. If I had it, I read it. Go to Thief. Boy, the thes are gonna be, long, huh? Haha! Thief. If the reader has not yet the pleasure of reading the first volume in this series of the life of Eslaf Errol, Beggar, he should close this book immediately, for I shan't recap. I will tell you this much, gentle reader. When we last saw Eslaf, he was a boy, an orphan, a failed beggar. Yeah, we're gonna have to move forward. I don't know, somewhere in the stacks of Legacy of the Dragonborn. He was a boy, an orphan, a failed beggar, running through the wild winter woods of Skyrim, away from his home of Errolgard. He continued running, stopping here and there for many more years until he was a young man. Eslaf discovered that among the ways of getting food, asking for it was the most troublesome. Far easier was finding it in the wilderness or taking it from unguarded market stalls. The only thing worse for than begging to get food was begging for the opportunity to work for the money to buy it. It seemed needlessly complicated. Now, as far as Eslaf was concerned, he was best off being a scavenger, a beggar, and a thief. He committed his first act of thievery shortly after leaving Errolgard, while in the southern woods of Tamburkar, in the rugged land near the Mount Jensen, just east of the village of Horfeld. Horbeld. Eslaf was starving, having not eaten anything but a rather scrawny raw squirrel in 4 days, and he smelled meat cooking and then found the smoke. A band of minstrel bards were making camp. He watched them from the bushes as they cooked and joked and flirted and sang. He could have asked them for some food, but so many others had refused him before. Instead, he rushed out, grabbed a piece of meat from the fire, and wincing from the burn, scrambled up the nearest tree to devour it while the bards stood under him and laughed. "What is your next move, thief?" giggled a fair, red-haired woman who was covered with tattoos. "How do you intend to disappear without us catching and punishing you?" As the hunger subsided, Eslaf realized she was right. Eslaf. The only way to get out of the tree without falling in their midst was to take the branch down to where it hung over a creek. There was a drop off a cliff of about 50 feet. That seemed like the wisest strategy, so Eslaf began crawling in that direction. "You do know how to fall, boy?" called out a young Pajiti, but a few years older than Eslaf, thin but muscular, graceful in his slightest movements. If you don't, you should just climb down here and take what's coming to you. It's idiotic to break your neck when we just give you some bruises and send you on your way. Of course I know how to fall, Eslav called back, but he didn't. They just thought the trick of falling was to have nothing underneath you and let nature take its course, but 50 feet up when you're looking down is enough to give anyone pause. I'm sorry to doubt your abilities, Master Thief, said the Khajiit, grinning. Obviously, you know how to fall feet first with your body straight, but loose to avoid cracking like an egg. It seems you are destined to escape us. Eslav wisely followed the Khajiit's hints and leapt into the river, falling without much grace, but without hurting himself. In the years that followed, he had to make several more drops from even greater heights, usually after a theft, sometimes without water beneath him, and he improved the basic technique. When he arrived in the western town of Jalenheim, on the morning of his 21st birthday, it didn't take him long to find out who was the richest person, most deserving of being burgled. An impregnable palace in a park near the center of town was owned by a mysterious young man named Suibud. Eslav wasted no time in finding the palace and watching it. The fortified palace he had come to learn was like a person with quirks and habits beneath its hard shell. It was not an old place. Evidently what money the Suibud had. Suibud. S-U-O. Is it necessary to have a U, an O, and an I? Suibud. Suibud had come from was fairly recent. It was regularly patrolled by guards, implying that the rich man was fearful of being burgled, with good reason. The most distinctive feature of the palace was its tower, rising 100 feet above the stone walls, doubtless giving the occupant a good defensive view. Eslav guessed that if Suibud was as paranoid as he guessed him to be, the tower would also provide a view of the palace storehouse. The rich man would want to keep an eye on his fortune. That meant that the loot couldn't be directly beneath the tower, but somewhere in the courtyard within the walls. The light in the tower shone all night long, so Eslav boldly decided that the best time to burgle was by the light of day, when Suibud must sleep. That would be the time the guards would least expect the thief to pounce. And so, when the noon sun was shining over the palace, Eslav quickly scaled the wall near the front gate and waited, hidden in the crenellations. The interior courtyard was plain and desolate, with few places to hide. But he saw that there were 2 wells. One the guards used from time to time to draw up water and slake their thirst. But Eslav noticed that guards would pass by the other well, never using it. He waited until the guards were distracted, just for a second, by the arrival of a merchant in a wagon bearing goods for the palace. While they were searching his wagon, Eslav leapt elegantly, feet first, from the wall into the well. It was not a particularly soft landing, for as Eslav had guessed, the well was not full of water, but gold. Still, he knew how to roll after a fall, and he didn't hurt himself. In the dank subterranean storehouse, he stuffed his pockets with gold and was about to go out the door, which he assumed would lead to the tower, when he noticed a gem the size of an apple, worth more than all the gold that was left. Eslav found room for it down his pants. The door did indeed lead to the tower, and Eslav followed its curving stairwell up, walking quietly but quickly. At the top, he found the master of the palace's private quarters, ornate and cold, with invaluable artwork and decorative swords and shields on the wall. Eslav assumed the snoring lump under the sheets was Suibud, but he didn't investigate too closely. He crept to the window and looked out. It was going to be a difficult fall for certs. He needed to jump from the tower, past the wall, and hit the tree on the other side. The tree branches would hurt, but they would break his fall, and there was a pile of hay he had left under the tree to prevent further injury. Eslav was about to leap when the occupant of the room woke with a start, yelling, "My gem!" Eslav stared at him for a second, wide-eyed. They looked alike. Not surprising, since they were brothers. Eslav Errol's story is continued in the book Warrior. Now let's see if I got that one. I do not. Okay. Hard to believe I don't have a book, but I don't have some of the books. Last Scabbard of Akrash. by Tebar Vonkit. Several warm summer days in the year 3E407, a young, pretty dumber woman in a veil regularly visited one of the master armorers in the city of Tyr. The locals decided that she was young and pretty by her figure and her poise, though no one ever saw her face. She and the armorer would retire to the back of the shop, and he would close down his business and dismiss his apprentices for a few hours. Then, at mid-afternoon, she would leave, only to return precisely the same time the next day. As gossip goes, it was fairly meager stuff, though what the old man was doing with such a well-dressed and attractively proportioned woman was the source of several crude jokes. After several weeks, the visit stopped, and life returned to normal in the slums of Tyr. It was not until a month or two after the visits had stopped that in one of the many taverns in the neighborhood, a young local tailor, having imbibed too much sauce, asked the armorer, "So whatever happened to your lady friend? You break her heart?" The armorer, well aware of the rumor, simply replied, "She is a proper young lady of quality. There was nothing between her and the likes of me." "What is she doing at your shop every day for?" asked the tavern wench, who had been dying to get the subject open. "If you must know, I was teaching her the craft." "You're putting us on," laughed the tailor. "No, the young lady had a particular fascination with my particular kind of artistry," the armorer said with a hint of pride before getting lost in reverie. "I taught her how to mend swords specifically, from all kinds of nicks and breaks, hairline fissures, cracked pommels, quillings, and grips. When she first started, she had no idea how to secure the grip to the tang of the blade. Well, of course, she was green to start off with, but why wouldn't she be? She wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. I taught her how to patch the little inlaid silver and gold filigree you find on really fine blades, and how to polish it all to a mirror sheen so the sword looks like the gods just pulled it from their celestial anvil." The tavern wench and the tailor laughed out loud. No matter what he alleged, the armorer was speaking of the young lady's training as another man speaks of a long-lost love. More of the locals in the tavern would have listened to the armorer's pathetic tale, but more important gossip had taken precedence. There was another murdered slave trader found in the center of town, gutted from fore to aft. That made 6 of them total in barely a fortnight. Some called the killer the Liberator, but that sort of anti-slavery zeal was rare among the common folk. They preferred calling him the Lopper, as several of the earlier victims had been completely beheaded. Others had been simply perforated, sliced, or gutted, but the Lopper still kept his original sobriquet. When the enthusiastic hooligans made bets about the conditions of the next slave trader's corpse, several dozen of the surviving members of that trade were meeting at the manor house of Serja Dres Minigar. Minigar was a minor houseman of house dress, but a major member of the slave trading fraternity. Perhaps his best years were behind him, but his associates still counted on him for wisdom. "We need to take what we know of this Lopper and search accordingly," said Minigar, seated in front of his opulent hearth. "We know he has an unreasonable hatred of slavery and slave traders. We know he's skilled with a blade. We know he has stealth and finesse to execute our most well-secured brethren in their most secure abodes. It sounds to me to be an adventurer, an outlander. Surely no citizen of Morrowind would strike at us like this." The slave traders nodded in agreement. An outlander seems most likely for their troubles. It was always true. "Were I 50 years younger, I would take down my blade, Akrash, from the hearth." Minigar made an expansive gesture toward the shimmering weapon. "And join you in seeking out this terror, searching out where adventurers meet, taverns and guild halls, then show him a little lopping of my own." The slave traders laughed politely. "You wouldn't let us borrow your blade for the execution, I suppose, would you, Sergio?" asked Soren Jealous, a young toadying slaver, enthusiastically. "It would be an excellent use for Akrash," sighed Minigar, "but I vowed to retire her when I retired." Minigar called for his daughter, Lilia, to bring the slavers more flame, but they waved the girl away. It was to be a night for hunting the Lopper, not drinking away their troubles. Minigar heartily approved of their devotion, particularly as expensive as the liquor was getting to be. When the last of the slavers had left, the old man kissed his daughter on the head, took one last admiring look at Akrash, and toddled off to his bed. No sooner had he done so than Pelia had the blade off the mantle and was flying with it across the field behind the manor house. She knew Razak had been waiting for her for hours in the stables. He sprung out at her from the shadows and, wrapping his strong, furry arms around her, kissed her long and sweet. Holding him as long as she dared to, she finally broke away and handed him the blade. He tested its edge. The finest Khajiit swordsman couldn't hone and edge this keen, he said, looking at his beloved with pride. And I know I nicked it up good last night. That you did, said Pelia. You must have cut through an iron cuirass. The slavers are taking precautions now, he replied. What did they say during their meeting? They think it's an outlander adventurer. It didn't occur to any of them that a Khajiit slave would possess the skills to commit all of these loppings. And your father doesn't suspect that it's his dear Akrash that is striking into the heart of oppression? Why would he, when every day he finds it fresh as the day before? Now I must go. Before anyone notices, I'm calling. My nurse sometimes comes in to ask me some detail about the wedding, as if I had any choice in the matter at all. I promise you, said Kazakh very seriously, you will not be forced into any marriage to cement your family's slave-dealing dynasty. The last scabbard, Akrash, will be sheathed into will be your father's heart. And when you are an orphan, you can free the slaves, move to a more enlightened province, and marry who you like. I wonder who that will be, Pelia teased and raced out of the stables. Just before dawn, Pelia awoke and crept out to the garden where she found Akrash hidden in the bittergreen vines. The edge was still relatively keen, but there were scratches vertically across the blade's surface. Another beheading, she thought, as she took pumice stone and patiently rubbed out the marks, finally polishing it with a solution of salt and vinegar. It was up on the mantel, in pristine condition, when her father came into the sitting room for his breakfast. When the news came that Kemalith Taram, Pelia's husband-to-be, had been found outside of the canton, his head on a spike some feet away, she did not have to pretend to grieve. Her father knew she did not want to marry him. It's a shame, he said. The lad was a good slaver. But there are plenty of other young men who would appreciate an alliance with our family. What about young Soren Jealous? 2 days nights later, Soren Jealous was visited by the lopper. The struggle did not take long, but Soren had armed himself with one small defense, a needle dipped in the ichor of poison plant, hidden up his sleeve. After the mortal blow, he collapsed forward and stuck Razak in the calf with the pin. By the time he made it back to Minigar Manor House, he was dying. Vision blurring, he climbed up to the eaves of the house to Peleg's window and rapped. Pelia did not answer immediately, as she was in a deep, wonderful sleep, dreaming about her future with her Khajiit lover. They rapped louder, which woke up not only Pelia, but also her father in the next room. Razak! She cried, opening up the window. The next person in the bedroom was Minigar himself. As he saw it, this slave, his property, was about to lop off the head of his daughter, his property, with his sword, his property. Suddenly, with the energy of a young man, Minigar rushed at the dying Khajiit, knocking the sword out of his hand. Before Pelia could stop him, her father had thrust the blade into her lover's heart. The excitement over, the old man dropped the sword and turned to the door to call the guard. As an afterthought, it occurred to him to make certain that his daughter hadn't been injured and might require a healer. Minigar turned to her. For a moment, he felt simply disoriented, feeling the force of the blow, but not the blade itself. Then he saw the blood, and then felt the pain. Before he fully realized that his daughter had stabbed him with a crash, he was dead. The blade, at last, found its scabbard. A week later, after the official investigations, the slave was buried in an unmarked grave in the manor field, and Sergio dressed, Minigar found his resting place in a modest corner of the family's opulent mausoleum. A larger crowd of curious onlookers came to view the funeral of the noble slaver, whose secret life was as the savage lopper of his competitors. The audience was respectfully quiet, though there was not a person there not imagining the final moments of the man's life. Attacking his own daughter in his madness, luckily defended by the loyal, helpless slave before turning the blade on himself. Among the viewers was an old armor who saw for one last time the veiled young lady before she disappeared forever from terror. I need to pray. And let me see if I can use the power of training from the book. Study! Illusion, thank you.
Time for a hot meal and a good sleep. Just what I needed.
Thanks for watching. Wishing you found family, creative hobbies, a hot bath after a long day, and food you love as much as Saleya loves apple pies.